Good afternoon. This is Judge Alyssa Perez resuming the criminal docket for the 210th District Court for November 16, 2021. All matters being heard today are being heard in accordance with all emergency orders and directives regarding COVID-19. In addition to that, we are streaming all matters live via YouTube for public viewing. I'll go ahead and call the cases. Calling cause number 2019-0D04980, State of Texas versus Felipe Calvillo. May I have announcements, please?
Ryan Herrera for the state of Texas, ready to proceed, Your Honor.
Russell Abud on behalf of the defendant. We're ready, Your Honor.
And Mr. Abu, do you see your client appearing from the police center?
Yes, I do.
And sir, I'm going to be asking you some questions, so I need to swear you in. If you would, please raise your right hand. Mr. Calvillo, would you raise your right hand, please? Yeah. Do you swear or affirm that any testimony you provide will be the truth and the whole truth?
Yes, ma'am.
Thank you very much. You can put your hand down, sir. Would you state your name for the record, please?
Felipe Calvillo.
Mr. Calvillo, as I mentioned, we are scheduled for a plea today. So I'm asking questions about documents you may have reviewed with your attorney. The first of which is marked as State's Exhibit number 1. Those are the plea papers in this case. Within that document, you're guaranteed certain rights, including the right to remain silent, the right to trial by jury, the right to counsel, the right to confront and cross-examine witnesses, and the right to call witnesses on your behalf and in your defense. Mr. Calvillo, do you recall reviewing State's number 1 with your attorney and signing that document?
Yes, ma'am.
And did you understand everything contained within the document?
Yes, ma'am.
Mr. Herrera, have you had more than 10 days to prepare a defense in this case?
You have to leave it on.
Judge, you said Mr. Herrera.
Is it not Mr. Herrera? Oh,
Calvillo.
Mr. Aboud, I'm sorry. I'm so sorry. Mr.
I have had more
Aboud.
than 10 days to prepare.
Okay. Thank you very much. My apologies, Mr. Herrera. And did you explain the plea papers to your client, Mr.
Abud. Yes, I did, Your Honor.
Do you believe he has understood the admonishments, rights, and consequences of giving up these rights by entering a plea today?
Yes, he has.
Mr. Calvillo, are you satisfied with your attorney's representation of you?
Yes, ma'am, I am.
And Mr. Abu, do you have any reason to believe your client is not presently competent to enter pleas?
No, Your Honor.
Mr. Calvillo, have you ever been found incompetent by any court?
No, ma'am.
Ever been examined by a doctor or psychiatrist who has found you mentally ill?
No, ma'am.
Okay, so based on your testimony, your attorney's representations, and my observations of you, I'm going to find that you are competent to enter your plea today. Sir, are you a U.S. citizen?
Yes, I am.
Where were you born?
El Paso, Texas.
Very well. In this case, I believe, let's see, I think there's originally 4 counts to the indictment, but the plea is only as to counts 1 and 2, each of which is charged as an aggravated assault with a deadly weapon. As to count 1, what is your plea? Guilty or not guilty?
Well,
Guilty.
guilty.
And as to count 2, what is your plea? Guilty or not guilty?
Guilty.
Are you making each of your pleas freely and voluntarily? Mr. Calvillo, are you making your pleas freely and voluntarily?
Oh, yeah. Yes, Your Honor.
Okay, I will find you are making your pleas freely and voluntarily. Mr. Herrera, would you summarize the evidence, please?
Yes, thank you, Your Honor. Had the state gone to trial in cause number 2019-0D04980, the state would have proven beyond a reasonable doubt that the defendant, Felipe Calvillo, on or about the 22nd day of June 2019 in the county of El Paso and state of Texas, as to count 1, did then and there intentionally or knowingly threaten Santiago Leija Gomez with imminent bodily injury, and did then and there use or exhibit a deadly weapon during the commission of said assault, to wit, a firearm. And is further presented that the said defendant used and exhibited a deadly weapon, to wit, a firearm, during the commission of an immediate flight from said offense. And as to count 2, that the defendant, Felipe Calvillo, on or about the 22nd day of June 2019 in the county of El Paso and state of Texas, did then and there intentionally or knowingly threaten Deyanira Mesa with imminent bodily injury, and did then and there use or exhibit a deadly weapon during the commission of said assault, to wit, a firearm. And is further presented that the said defendant used and exhibited a deadly weapon, to wit, a firearm, during the commission and of an immediate flight from said offense. At this time, Your Honor, the state would enter States Exhibits 1, 2, and 3 as to counts 1 and 2. States Exhibit 1 being the plea papers, States Exhibit 2 being the Article 3914 disclosure form, and States Exhibit 3 being the case summary and indictment.
Any objection?
Objection, Your Honor.
Without objection, States Exhibits 1, 2, and 3 are admitted. What is the plea agreement?
Your Honor, 5 years community supervision under the deferred adjudication provisions, $5,000 fine with 4,500 probated, 200 hours community service, urine and breath analysis, curfew, court costs, TAP evaluation, anger management, no contact with the 4 complaining witnesses, and all other terms and conditions that probation deems appropriate, as well as the state will be dismissing counts 3 and 4, Your Honor.
Mr. Abud, is that your understanding of the plea agreement?
Yes, it is, Your Honor.
And Mr. Calvillo, is that your understanding as well?
Yes, Your Honor.
Okay, understand that the plea agreement is not binding on the court. However, if I were to reject it, I would allow you to withdraw your plea. If I follow the plea agreement, you may not appeal this case except on matters raised by written motion and ruled on before trial or by permission of the court. The next document I'm going to ask you about is a 1-page document entitled The Trial Court Certification of Your Right to Appeal. It is a document that explains your appeal rights. Because this is a plea bargained or negotiated case, you do not have an automatic right of appeal. Mr. Calvillo, do you recall reviewing the trial court certification with your attorney and signing that document?
Yes, Your Honor.
Okay, it was signed by your attorney and signed by me as well. Finally, the last document I'm going to ask you about is the motion for deferred adjudication. Mr. Calvillo, do you recall reviewing the motion for deferred adjudication and signing that document?
Yes, Your Honor.
Mr. Abud, have you explained to your client both the benefits and detriments of deferred adjudication?
Yes, I have, Your Honor.
Mr. Calvillo, do you understand that if you violate a condition of deferred adjudication, the court can proceed to sentence you up to the full range of punishment for this offense? Do you understand that?
Yes, Your Honor.
Okay. Are you asking the court to grant you deferred adjudication?
Yes.
Okay. I will find there is sufficient evidence to substantiate findings of guilt. However, I will not enter a finding of guilt at this time. Instead, I will defer further proceedings and place you on community supervision pursuant to the plea agreement for a period of 5 years. There will be a $5,000 fine, $4,500 of that is probated, which means as long as you're in compliance with your conditions of probation, Mr. Calvillo, you don't owe the entirety of the fine, just the portion that is not probated. So that's like $500, I think. But if at any point you are not in compliance, then they can come back and collect the whole fine. 200 hours of community service, urine and breath analysis, curfew, court costs, TAP, anger management, you're to have no contact with the complainants, Santiago Gomez, Danira Mesa, Iker Gomez, Abdiel Gomez. And once received, I will sign the dismissals as to counts 3 and 4. Is there anything further, Mr. Abud or Mr. Herrera?
Nothing further for the state, Your Honor.
Your Honor, it's my understanding that the defendant does work full-time out of town. I don't know if it's in Odessa or Midland.
Okay.
And we're asking the court permission for him to be able to travel there.
You will have permission to travel for work purposes only, Mr. Calvillo. So as you get started, I think we do have probation here with your initial meeting with your probation officer. Make sure you submit whatever schedule you have, whatever work schedule. If it's a regular schedule, I don't need you to update it. But if it changes, I don't know exactly what your schedule is like. Just make sure probation knows when you're going to be out of town, okay?
Your Honor, I wanted to ask because you didn't give me permission to go to my father's wedding in Mexico, so I'm not allowed to travel to see my family.
Okay, well, I had not heard that. What's the details on the dates and whatnot?
Well, it already passed, but you didn't grant me permission to go to his civil wedding or his main wedding. But I'm just asking if from now on, if I could visit my family. I mean,
So you'll have to ask for travel permits for that, Mr. Calvillo. Just, whatever it is that you have, whether it's family matters, sometimes people have doctor's appointments, things like that. Just communicate it to your probation officer, okay?
Okay.
Otherwise, that's when we start having problems when, people go MIA and stuff when we find out you're traveling. Just communicate with your probation officer, okay?
Okay.
As the requests come in, I review them, I sign them if they're good. If not, you'll hear that too, okay?
Yes, ma'am.
Thank you very much. Anything else?
No, Your Honor.
All right. Good luck to you, sir. Monday.
May I be excused?
Hold on. Carla's about to say something.
Just if I may, Judge, my understanding of Mr. Carrillo, this case will be an interstate transfer. He resides in New Mexico. So I just wanted to let you know.
Is that right?
It's either or, I live in both places. Most of my time, I have my company out in West Texas, and I have my other business here in Anthony, Texas. So I come back and forth between West Texas and Anthony, Texas. So I live in both places.
Mhm.
So I could either do Texas. I'm fine doing Texas, or if you guys want me to do New Mexico, that's not an issue with me.
Am I hearing, are you working in, what is New Mexico? I'm hearing Anthony, Texas and West Texas.
I know I have a trucking company in West Texas, and I have my other business in Anthony, Texas.
Okay, so, but where do you reside?
Both places. I have homes in both places, ma'am.
Okay, but neither of those is New Mexico, right?
Well, the one in Las Cruces, New Mexico is my other home.
Okay. So,
Judge, if I may, I apologize, but I spoke to him yesterday to confirm the address, and Mr. Calvillo did let me know where he resides, and he provided me with an address in Las Cruces.
okay.
Yes, I have homes in both places. That's what I'm trying to say. So I could do either Texas or New Mexico, whichever one you guys want me to do.
Why don't we
I
do
mean-
both of them?
Right?
Well, I don't know. I mean, Mr. Calvillo, you're gonna have to give probation guidance on where I guess would be your primary. To me, I heard a lot of Texas and not so much New Mexico, but if you spend most of your time in New Mexico, I mean, I think it'd be a headache for them because you're gonna be needing to come to work in Texas, right?
Well, my business is in Anthony, Texas, but my home is in Las Cruces, New Mexico, my house. So it's a 15-minute drive.
Okay, so you reside in New Mexico. So, okay, so then it is good. I mean, potentially it's gonna be a transfer. I'm gonna let you square away with probation on that. Whatever the process ends up being, if it ends up being a transfer to New Mexico, you need to follow the instructions of probation about everything. I don't have an issue with him if he's residing in Las Cruces, Carla, in the interim. If it says going to be transferred, I don't have a problem in the process as long as he's reporting. As long as he's reporting, okay?
Yes, Judge, and just for, just so for this to be on the record, Mr. Calvillo needs to understand he can be residing in both states. It's gotta be one. If it's not New Mexico, then he needs to let us know right now when we speak to him, because I need to change paperwork, because according to him yesterday, he provided me with Las Cruces information. I had already prepared paperwork with interstate contact and all that, so.
Okay,
So
so
we're all on the
maybe
same page.
we need to have a better understanding, Mr. Calvillo. So yes, I need you to get with probation and be clear as to what your primary residence is and if there's going to be a transfer. If there is, and you do live in Las Cruces, New Mexico, then it will be, they will be administering or supervising you, and the issues with you having to go to West Texas or Anthony, Texas will fall into there. For my purposes, I don't have any problem with him going for work purposes. Okay?
Thank you.
All righty, thank you very much. All right, let's get Mr. Quinn.
And Judge, I apologize to you and Ms. Santos. All of my communications with the victim have been in Spanish, but I'm being told now that she wishes to give her statement in English.
Ándale. Okay, so I think that's everybody for 1:30, right? For our 1:30 slot. Mr. Justin Carrasco doesn't need an interpreter, right?
No, Judge.
Okay. I'm sorry, Ms. Santos, that was a false alarm.
This
No
is the
problem.
camera and microphone cases. We just
Thank you.
loudly and clear you. Okay. Thank you, sir.
Maybe
Yeah, be
excuse your
excused,
honor then.
Judge.
Yes, Mr. Abud. Yes, Ms.
Thank you.
Santos. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Bye.
Bye-bye. All right, is this Mr., did I lose my, there he is. Is that Mr. Quinn?
Yes, Your Honor.
Okay, perfect. Do we have Mr. Rosales? Yes, Mr. Rosales, are you there?
Yes.
Okay. So, Mr. Quinn, I think we've been okay with the audio. Just I'll let you know if at any point you can't hear either me or the attorneys as we're going through the plea, please wave your hand so we can go back repeat it.
Yes, ma'am.
All right, if we're all ready, calling cause number 2020-0D04747, State of Texas versus Luis Christopher Quinn. May I have announcements, please?
Brian Herrera for the state of Texas, ready to proceed, Your Honor.
Joe Rosales here on behalf of Mr. Quinn. We are ready.
And Mr. Rosales, do you see your client appearing from the police center?
I do.
Okay, sir, this is Judge Perez. I am going to be asking you questions regarding your plea today, so I need to swear you in. If you would, please, Mr. Quinn, raise your right hand. Sir, do you swear or affirm that any testimony you provide will be the truth and the whole truth?
Yes, Your Honor.
Okay, you can put your hand down, sir. Sir, would you state your name for the record?
Luis Christopher Quinn.
Mr. Quinn, as I mentioned, I'm going to be asking questions about documents you may have reviewed with your attorney. The first of which is marked as State's Exhibit Number 1. Those are the plea papers in this case. Within that document, you're guaranteed certain rights, including the right to remain silent, the right to trial by jury, the right to counsel, the right to confront and cross-examine witnesses, and the right to call witnesses on your behalf and in your defense. Mr. Quinn, do you recall reviewing State's Exhibit Number 1, the plea papers, with your attorney and signing that document?
Yes, Your Honor.
And did you understand everything contained within that document?
Yes, Your Honor.
Mr. Rosales, have you had more than 10 days to prepare a defense in this case?
Yes, we have.
And did you explain the plea papers to your client?
Yes,
Do you believe he has understood the admonishments, rights, and consequences of giving up these rights by entering a plea today?
yes, I do.
Mr. Quinn, are you satisfied with your attorney's representation of you?
Yes, ma'am.
And Mr. Rosales, do you have any reason to believe your client is not presently competent to enter a plea?
No reason.
Mr. Quinn, have you ever been found incompetent by any court?
No, Your Honor.
Ever been examined by a doctor or psychiatrist who has ever found you mentally ill?
No, Your Honor.
Okay, so based on your testimony, your attorney's representations, and my observations of you, I'm going to find that you are competent to enter your plea today. Sir, are you a U.S. citizen?
Yes, Your Honor.
Where were you born?
El Paso, Texas.
Okay, so in this case, although originally indicted as an assault, family violence, impeding breath or circulation, I understand through negotiations, you're pleading to the lesser included offense, misdemeanor, Class A misdemeanor offense of assault causing bodily injury. To that lesser included offense, sir, what is your plea, guilty or not guilty?
Guilty.
Are you making your plea freely and voluntarily?
Yes, Your Honor.
Okay, I'll find you are making your plea freely and voluntarily. Mr. Herrera, would you summarize the evidence, please?
Yes, Your Honor. Had the state gone to trial on cause number 2020-0D04747, the state would have proven beyond a reasonable doubt that the defendant, Luis Christopher Quinn, on or about the 13th day of August 2020 in the county of El Paso and state of Texas, did then and there intentionally, knowingly, or recklessly cause bodily injury to Tanya Vargas Martinez, a member of the defendant's family or member of the defendant's household, or person with whom the defendant has or has had a dating relationship as described by sections 71.003 or 71.005 or 71.0021B Family Code by intentionally, knowingly, or recklessly striking the said complaining witness by the face. At this time, Your Honor, the state would enter State's Exhibits 1, 2, and 3. State's Exhibit 1 being the plea papers, State's Exhibit 2 being the Article 3914 disclosure form, and State's Exhibit 3 being the case summary and indictment.
Any objection?
Well, I have no objection to the exhibits or to the summary of evidence.
Without objection, State's Exhibits 1, 2, and 3 are admitted. What is the plea agreement?
Your Honor, it is a reduction to a lesser included assault bodily injury, Class A misdemeanor, with 2 years deferred adjudication, $4,000 fine with 3,500 probated, 200 hours of community service, urine and breath analysis, curfew, court costs, TAP eval, battery and intervention prevention program, and no contact with the complaining witness, Ms. Tanya Vianney Vargas Martinez, and all other terms and conditions of probation deems appropriate.
Mr. Rosales, is that your understanding of the plea agreement?
It is. I'm a little concerned about that last statement and any and all terms and conditions the probation department might want to add in there. We kind of made a deal on what we agreed on. I don't know what that last part might eventually mean. So other than that last tag on, everything else we've agreed to.
All right. I believe that was reflected on the plea papers and that was signed. I don't know if Mr. Herrera was contemplating anything in addition to the specific conditions that were stated. Mr. Herrera?
Nothing in particular, Your Honor. That's just kind of a catch-all language that was reflected on the plea papers.
Well, maybe I missed that. Let me see if I can see that. Oh, well, I mean, is there any other, I'm not sure how far that would go, Judge. I didn't really catch that. I've never seen anybody add that before.
I mean, generally, Your Honor, just no, committing no new offenses, right? Which is kind of implied, but that's generally what that
What
would cover.
I'm understanding that to mean, Mr. Rosales, is just standard terms and conditions. So anything that would require them to report, things of that nature. The ones that are specifically stated, I think, are more specific to this case. So if that is not your understanding, if you all need a minute to discuss some things, happy to take time out.
If we could say on the record that these are standard, any and all other standard terms and conditions, I'm okay with that. But any other condition could be, safety.
Well, I mean, we all know that if it's not listed there, obviously he's not going to SafeP. If there is something that happens in terms of his non-compliance further down the road that I'm not saying is going to happen, I mean, he is subject to any modifications down the road if needed.
I have no problem with that, but are we saying standard terms and conditions with that? Okay.
Yes, Judge, and we can let the record reflect that it's all other standard terms and conditions.
Very good, Your Honor.
So is that your understanding of the plea agreement, Mr. Rosales?
With that sort of explanation, yes.
Okay, Mr. Quinn, is that your understanding as well?
Yes, Your Honor.
Understand that the plea agreement is not binding on the court. However, if I were to reject it, I would allow you to withdraw your plea. If I follow the plea agreement, you may not appeal this case except on matters raised by written motion and ruled on before trial or by permission of the court. The next document I'm going to ask you about is the one-page document entitled The Trial Court Certification of Your Right to Appeal. It is a document that explains your appeal rights. Because this is a plea bargain or negotiated case, you do not have an automatic right of appeal. Mr. Quinn, do you recall reviewing and signing the trial court certification?
Yes, Your Honor.
It was signed by your attorney and signed by me as well. The next document I'm going to ask you about is a motion for deferred adjudication. Mr. Quinn, do you recall reviewing the motion for deferred adjudication with your attorney?
Yes, Your Honor.
And did you sign that document?
Yes, Your Honor.
Mr. Rosales, have you explained to your client both the benefits and detriments of deferred adjudication?
Yes.
Mr. Quinn, do you understand if you violate a condition of deferred adjudication, the court can proceed to sentence you up to the full range of punishment for this offense? Do you understand that?
Yes, Your Honor.
And are you asking the court to grant you deferred adjudication?
Yes, Your Honor.
Okay. I will find there is sufficient evidence to substantiate a finding of guilt. However, I will not enter a finding of guilt at this time. Instead, I will defer further proceedings and place you on community supervision for a period of 2 years pursuant to the plea agreement. There is, I'm sorry, let me look. Oh, okay. There is a $4,000 fine, $3,500 of that is probated. That means, Mr. Quinn, as long as you're compliant on probation, you do not owe the entirety of the fine, just the $500 difference. If you at some point are not compliant, they can collect the entirety of the fine. 200 hours of community service, urine and breath analysis, curfew, court costs, screen for TAP, you're to take a BIP class, batterers intervention. I'm not recalling the remainder of that right now. You're also to have no contact with the complaining witness, Tania Vianney Vargas Martinez. Other than the victim impact statement, is there anything further, Mr. Herrera or Mr. Rosales?
Nothing further for the state, Your Honor.
Mr. Rosales?
There is one other thing. My client is living, or it will be living in Las Cruces.
Mm-hmm.
So I'd ask the court to order a transfer to Las Cruces, and also that his address be recorded as 1624 Costales Trail in Las Cruces, New Mexico, 88012.
Ms. Pineda, is this one that you had already spoken with Mr. Quinn regarding the process?
Yes, Your Honor.
Okay.
I already have the address as well.
So that is in the works. I will remind you, Mr. Quinn, in the interim, just to make sure you follow all of your probation requirements until that transfer actually happens, okay?
Yes, Your
All
Honor.
right. Anything else, Mr. Rosales?
Nothing further?
Okay, so we are off the record at this time. However, we do have a victim impact statement, Mr. Herrera.
Yes, Your Honor. So the state will call Ms. Vianney Vargas Martinez.
Ma'am, if you could just unmute. Thank you, ma'am. This is Judge Perez. I apologize. I know this is not, I don't know that everybody has the experience on Zoom, but you are here to provide your statement. So we're happy to accommodate that. You may proceed.
Okay. Well, I just want to say that being in a relationship in which violence is present is not easy to endure. The violence is not just physical, it is also psychological and verbal. No one expects that from a person who is in love with. I was a woman who trusts in who I was, happy, charismatic, positive, friendly, optimist, that wanted to love and be loved. But after being mistreated, discriminated just because I'm a woman and Mexican, insulted, beaten, and minimized, attacked, and blamed for everything in any opportunity, that wonderful woman is completely gone now. While Mr. Christopher Quinn is living his life like nothing happened, now I have to deal with PTSD, severe depression, anxiety, trust issues. Besides, I tried to end my life months ago. And also the constant questions in my mind. Could I one day go out without fear? Could someone love me? Am I good enough? Am I look good? Am I pretty? Am I good a mom? Am I worth it? Will everyone be better without me? I will give everything, anything, just to go back in time and prevent that the beautiful and amazing woman once I was be taken away from me. Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am. I really do appreciate your time. I know it is difficult. And I just hope you find peace and move on from this. With that said, if you don't have anyone else, Mr. Herrera, then ma'am, you're free to go. Thank you for being here today. Anyone else, Mr. Herrera?
No one else, Your Honor.
All righty. Mr.
Thank
Quinn,
you,
I
Judge.
hope you'll take those words to heart. I don't want to have any issues on probation. Do what you got to do and move on from this, okay?
Yes, Your Honor.
Thank you very much. Mr. Rosales, you're excused. Thank you.
Thank you, Your Honor.
Who's next, Chuy?
I've got Mr. Carrasco here, Judge.
Great. Do we have Mr. Veith? Yay. Well, thank you. Thank you, Miss. Oh, she's gone. Okay. So, Mr. Veith, I think you have the record on getting our police set up.
I think I set the new world record. I'm proud of that. And I never actually met with my client in person. Everything was virtual. So
Were you able to take care of everything you needed to?
yes, Your Honor, and review the case and meet with him and go over everything.
Okay. Mr. Carrasco, this is Judge Perez. How are you?
Doing good. How about yourself, Judge?
I'm doing well, thanks. I just want to make sure you all had enough time to take care of everything. I know this was somewhat quicker than usual.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. We're going to get started here. Sometimes the audio can get a little strange. If at some point you don't hear us and what we're doing, please raise your hand and we'll go back, repeat anything you don't catch, okay?
Okay.
All righty. Calling cause number 2020-0D05110, State of Texas versus Justin Carrasco. May I have announcements, please?
Brian Herrera, on behalf of the state, ready, Your Honor.
And Joseph Heath for the defense, Your Honor, ready to proceed.
Mr. Veith, do you see your client appearing from the police center?
I sure do.
Okay, sir. Mr. Carrasco, I'm going to be asking you questions, so I need to swear you in. If you would please raise your right hand. Do you swear or affirm that any testimony you provide will be the truth and the whole truth?
Yes, ma'am, I do.
Thank you very much. You can put your hand down. Sir, would you state your name for the record, please?
First name is Justin, last name is Carrasco.
Mr. Carrasco, as I mentioned, I'm going to be asking you questions about documents you may have reviewed with your attorney, the first of which is marked as State's Exhibit number 1. Those are the plea papers in this case. Within that document, you're guaranteed certain rights, including the right to remain silent, the right to trial by jury, the right to counsel, the right to confront and cross-examine witnesses, and the right to call witnesses on your behalf and in your defense. Mr. Carrasco, do you recall reviewing State's Exhibit number 1 with your attorney and signing that document?
Yes, I do.
And did you understand it? Excuse me, everything contained within that document?
Yes, I did.
Mr. Veith, have you had more than 10 days to prepare a defense in this case?
I have, Your Honor.
And did you explain the plea papers to your client?
I did, Your Honor.
Do you believe he has understood the admonishments, rights, and consequences of giving up these rights by entering a plea today?
Yes, Your Honor.
Mr. Carrasco, are you satisfied with your attorney's representation of you?
Very much so, yes.
Mr. Veith, do you have any reason to believe your client is not presently competent to enter a plea?
None, Your Honor.
Mr. Carrasco, have you ever been found incompetent by any court?
No, ma'am.
Ever been examined by a doctor or psychiatrist who's found you mentally ill?
No, ma'am.
Okay, so based on your testimony, your attorney's representations, and my observations of you, I'm going to find that you are competent to enter your plea today. Mr. Carrasco, are you a U.S. citizen?
Yes, ma'am, I am.
Okay, where were you born?
El Paso, Texas here.
So the charge against you, I believe, is possession of a controlled substance in penalty group 1 in an amount less than 1 gram. To that charge, sir, what is your plea, guilty or not guilty?
Guilty, Your Honor.
Are you making your plea freely and voluntarily?
Yes, I am.
Okay, I will find you are making your plea freely and voluntarily. Mr. Herrera, would you summarize the evidence, please?
Yes, thank you, Your Honor. Had the state gone to trial in cause number 2020-0D05710, the state would have proven beyond a reasonable doubt that the defendant, Justin Patrick Carrasco, on or about the 10th day of September 2020 in the county of El Paso and state of Texas, did then and there intentionally or knowingly possess a controlled substance, namely cocaine, having an aggregate weight, including adulterants or dilutants, in an amount of less than 1 gram. At this time, Your Honor, the state would enter States Exhibits 1, 2, and 3, States Exhibit 1 being the plea papers, States Exhibit 2 being the Article 3914 disclosure form, and States Exhibit 3 being the case summary and indictment.
No objection, Your Honor.
Without objection, States Exhibits 1, 2, and 3 are admitted. What is the plea agreement?
Your Honor, it is a 1244B state jail or Class A misdemeanor, rather, via 1244B with 4 days confinement in the El Paso County Detention Facility with credit for time served, $500 fine, and $180 restitution to the El Paso Police Department for the NMS lab fee, ELP 20-ELP-014890.
Mr. Veith, is that your understanding of the plea agreement?
It is, Your Honor.
And Mr. Carrasco, is that your understanding as well?
Yes, it is.
I understand that the plea agreement is not binding on the court. However, if I were to reject it, I would allow you to withdraw your plea. If I follow the plea agreement, you may not appeal this case except on matters raised by written motion and ruled on before trial or by permission of the court. The next document I'm going to ask you about is a one-page document entitled The Trial Court Certification of Your Right to Appeal. It is a document that explains your appeal rights. Because this is a plea bargained or negotiated case, you do not have an automatic right of appeal. Mr. Carrasco, do you recall reviewing and signing that document as well?
Yes, ma'am, I do.
It's signed by your attorney and signed by me as well. So on your plea of guilty and the evidence introduced at this time, I will find the evidence substantiates, your guilt. I will find you guilty of the offense of possession of a controlled substance in penalty group 1 in an amount less than 1 gram. And I will sentence you according to the plea agreement and in accordance with 1244B of the Texas Penal Code to 4 days confinement in the El Paso County Detention Facility. You receive credit for any and all time that you have served. There's a $500 fine. There's restitution and $180 in terms of the lab fee. Not sure how that gets collected, but you are, that is part of the plea agreement. So we'll see how that gets collected. Is there anything further, Mr. Veith or Mr. Herrera?
No, Your Honor, just generally, that's sent off to EPPD headquarters on Rayner.
And I'll be in touch with my client about that, Your Honor.
All righty. Thank you very much. Is there anything further, Mr. Veith, Mr. Herrera?
No, Your Honor.
Okay.
Nothing more, Your Honor, other than the idea is that he already has 4 days credit for time served, and that's why we picked that number.
Okay, I didn't get any information regarding the time that he has credit. Ms. Nieto, do you see that? I didn't even look because we did it so quickly.
I'll wait for Ms. Nieto, but that's what I show on my end, Judge.
Okay. Ms.
That's
Nieto,
fine.
that's fine.
As long as he has, if he doesn't have it for some reason, if somebody could contact me so we can resolve that.
I think she's right here.
It shows that he has 5 days credit.
Okay,
There you
perfect.
go. All righty. Thank you very much. Good luck to you,
Thank
Mr. Carrasco.
Goodbye, Judge. Thank you.
Take care.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Thank you, Your Honor. Bye-bye, y'all.
Thank you, Mr. Veith. So I
Thank
think
you.
that's everybody for our plea center. We can go ahead and get off.